I'd like to wish each of you a very happy and healthy new year. As we start off 2021, we'd like to reflect back on 2020 and share some of the highlights of RPA's achievements with you. I'd like Dr. Perlmutter to take a moment in his role as RPA president to share with you some highlights of RPA's recent achievements.
I'd be happy to, Dale. In the midst of a viral pandemic, 2020 was a very busy year for RPA, both with respect to regulatory and legislative changes. We all have gotten very used to using telehealth in the care of our patients. It's become integral to what we've done this past year. Without it, our patients wouldn't get care and our practices probably would not have survived. The RPA provided guidance to the HHA's telehealth work group, and they accepted our guidance and permanently removed the geographic and originating site restrictions, which are very important. Also, RPA helped devise new ICD-10 codes. Two of these codes were those that split the current Stage 3 kidney disease code into the Stage 3A and 3B codes. Also, we devised a code for C3 glomerulonephritis. Many of us will be entering into new payment models this year, whether it is the mandatory end-stage renal disease treatment choices model or the voluntary CKCC models. RPA had a great deal to do with changes in those models. For the mandatory ETC model, CMS accepted our recommendations to reduce the scope of the model to only 30% of the country rather than 50% of the country. Also, CMS agreed to allow aggregation at the nephrology practice level and also to reduce the range between the penalty and the bonus payments within that model. In the voluntary CKCC models, we got a very important victory in that CMS agreed that payment to nephrology practices for the MCP would go directly to those practices rather than being funneled through the kidney care entities. Also, CMS agreed to pay the 4-visit MCP code at the full value rather than at the proposed adjusted value, which would have made it equal to the 2 to 3 visit code. I have been told that this can make it much more viable from a financial standpoint to allow practices to participate. Most important, we had a very important victory with respect to our overall reimbursement. In the Medicare fee schedule, nephrology as a specialty will increase by about 11%. Much of this is because CMS listened to the RPA and increased our MCP RVUs by the requisite amount given the increase in the RVUs for evaluation and management services. This led to an increase in RVUs for outpatient dialysis codes of between 13 and 27%.
Thank you so much for sharing those highlights with everyone. Could you please give us a couple of examples of how our recent achievements have helped you in your practice, as well as in the nephrology specialty more broadly?
Sure. Well, of course, any increase in reimbursement helps any practice, regardless of size. Mine is a small practice, just 2 nephrologists, and certainly an increase in reimbursement helps us to continue going through what's going to still be a very difficult year with respect to clinical practice. While the changes in the ETC model don't affect me because practices in Maryland were always going to be included, it may be possible for our very small practice to participate in one of the voluntary models, albeit aggregated with some other nephrology practices. As I alluded, the removal of the adjustment to the MCP payment may make it financially viable for even my practice to be able to participate in one of these voluntary models. It goes without saying that having telehealth available has made it much easier to provide care to my patients, and I think they appreciated the ability to see their doctors without having to come in person, and I think many of them will continue to do so, especially for people who have difficulty getting to the office because of mobility issues or because of distance. This will provide a much easier access to care and will also be an important adjunct to the care provided through the voluntary kidney payment models. So Dale, now it's your turn to answer my questions. We can't expect another big pay raise for 2022 after the big one for 2021, but what else can members expect from RPA in the coming year?
In 2021, we are going to continue to build on our virtual footprint that we expanded in 2020. We are going to continue offering timely and relevant content directly to your homes and offices on a variety of topics that help you deliver quality kidney care. Topics such as evaluation and management code updates, guidance for optimal CKD care, collaborative communication to improve staff relationships, and many more are planned for the coming months. Our popular coding and billing seminar will be offered virtually this spring and will be chock full of the latest requirements that will be implemented this year. Make plans now to join us at our virtual 2021 annual meeting, March 18th to 20th. Targeted sessions will be offered for early career nephrologists, advanced practitioners, and practice administrators. In addition, we'll be presenting the latest legislative and regulatory news affecting nephrology practices and kidney care. One of the highlights will be a deep dive into the mandatory and voluntary payment models and how you can succeed in participating in those opportunities. I encourage you to check our website for detailed program information as well as our speaker lineup. Registration is now open. Earlier this month, RPA awarded 5 public policy fellowships to early career nephrologists, since the future of the specialty is in their hands. During this 12-month fellowship, they will learn the importance and impact of advocacy and how to shape kidney health policy. Looking ahead toward June, I hope you will join us for our annual Capitol Hill Day and Policy, Advocacy, and Leadership Forum. These will both be offered virtually. We are nailing down our legislative priorities this month, but it is likely that living organ donation and telehealth will be 2 items we'll be discussing with our elected officials. The PAL program will be finalized in March and will be posted at renalmd.org. There are several ways to keep up with the latest news affecting nephrology practice and your patients. I encourage you to download the RPA app in the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. It's free. And through the app, all things RPA will be easily accessible on your mobile devices. You will be the first to hear about breaking news. You'll be able to renew your membership, donate to the RPA Political Action Committee, and connect with other RPA members. While COVID-19 affected association operations in 2020, it has not stalled our efforts to offer relevant and valuable programs and services to nephrology professionals. Just as many of you have increased the delivery of telehealth to your kidney patients, RPA staff have increased our focus on telework. Therefore, we have downsized our office space to reduce rent expenses and shift more resources to serving you, our members. We hope you'll come visit us when we are on the other side of the pandemic and meeting face-to-face once again. We look forward to seeing you online and in person during 2021. Jeff, are there any closing comments you'd like to share?
My last video message to you was on March 10th, 2020. I remember the day well. It was a Tuesday. We were still hoping to be able to have an in-person annual meeting for the RPA in Baltimore. Unfortunately, and forgive my use of the vernacular, the next day the world went down the crapper. And by the next day, we had canceled the meeting. While there was not time to create a proper virtual meeting last year, there has been this year. Our Education Committee, chaired by Dr. Gary Singer, with Vice Chair Dr. Brendan Bowman, has worked hard to develop content for our virtual meeting that is worthy of your attention. And there should be quite a bit of fun, too. The meeting will be held March 18 through 20, and registration is open. I urge you to attend. At the meeting, I will give my State of the Association remarks, and I will pass along the President's gavel to Dr. Timothy Fletterer, our current President-elect. It has been my honor to serve as RPA President, even if the circumstances have been somewhat unusual. The strength of the RPA has always lain with its members, and I urge you to renew your membership for 2021 if you have not already done so. With so many changes affecting the nephrology profession, it is more important now than ever to remain connected with RPA. So stay well, hope for a better year, and I will see you for real in person at the annual meeting in Dallas in 2022.
Let's do this other part.
I understand. Yeah, you want me
Yeah, well,
naughty.
it-
You know what? You know
not
you
even
never
naughty.
realize how they do those interviews
Yeah.
until until you watch it, until you realize what they're doing. That they're not even together.
Right.
Like someone's here in another city answering a question, looking very intent, and the other person's somewhere and they're answering and they're pretending they're together,
Right.
and they're not.
Can you share a few highlights of RPA's achievements during 2020? And let's
I'd be happy to, Dale. Between the penalty. Oh, well, you'll record this and maybe you'll see it. Oh, I had planned. Oh, there wasn't enough time. I had planned all sorts of crazy answers to include there for Dale just to make her crazy. Oh, I love to tease her. She knows it too. I'm looking right at you, Dale. You know that.